Welcome to this week's edition of Power Talk. We're having a very important conversation about the effects of climate change. It is now not in question that this is an existential threat, but one of the most important things is how to fund climate change and the effects of that. And you're talking about funding that in a world where resources are limited, in a world where there's increasing priorities, and some of them perhaps not in line with climate change. How do you do that? Well, climate entrepreneurship is one of those that has emerged as a viable means towards doing that. And we're so pleased to be hearing today from Joseph Murabula, who is the CEO of the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, KCIC. And that is the work that they do, particularly with SMEs. Joseph, thank you very much for joining us on Power Talk today. It's very good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Let's talk about climate change. Yeah. I mean, more and more as months and years go by, it becomes, a more critical and bigger issue than ever, right? Yeah. So let's talk about why we should care deeply about it right now.
Yeah, thank you, Yvonne. Generally, I think the world and people generally now have a bit of knowledge about climate change. They can see its impact and not just on the on business or on systems, but on them as individuals. So climate change is no longer fictional. It affects every part of the world, everything we do, and literally every facet of life. Actually, there's now a lot of evidence to show that there's a direct nexus between climate change, between energy systems, between food systems, and that sort of thing, and that in terms of the effect of climate change, that in Kenya, for instance, we know that because of climate change, and if it's not managed, we could face up to 3%. Anywhere between 2.5 and 3% reduction in GDP growth, just because of the effect of climate change, and that's why everybody should care about it deeply. Governments, in particular, should focus on creating an enabling environment, ensuring that the systems we have, the laws we have, the policies we have, create an environment where people can innovate and use that innovation to fight climate change. Corporations should be looking at systems where they create sustainability. They promote sustainability. They support ideas or innovations that fight climate change. And as individuals, we should be worrying about our own individual choices and their impact on climate.
Yeah,
and so it's important that everybody basically plays their part,
right,
so to speak.
Corporate citizens, individual citizens, public and private sector.
Yes, exactly.
That's an important one. So you've spoken about innovation. There's quite a bit of that is going on. So let's speak about that, perhaps break it down for us, some of the innovation we're seeing. And climate entrepreneurship is perhaps a phrase we want to acquaint ourselves better with. So tell us what that is, what's happening in that space, and how it's contributing to all of the efforts to mitigate the effects of what we're seeing now.
Yeah, climate entrepreneurship is basically the creation of ventures to be able to fight climate change as it is. The difference between it and straight entrepreneurship is that it promotes economic development or economic growth, as well as climate impact as it is. That is the main difference. Now, coming to the specific question around innovation. Innovation is basically at the forefront of the fight against climate change. The thing about climate change is that it manifests in very different ways on a daily basis. And therefore, we need to be able to also find new and innovative ways of being able to fight climate change. So innovation systems, be they around energy systems or renewable energy, be they around agriculture, be they around waste, be they around forest, or be they around water, are basically key to the fight against climate change as it is. And I need to mention perhaps that these are things that are done by everyday people. Sometimes people look at innovation as things that are out of this world.
Yeah.
No, these are actually things that are done by everyday people. At KCIC, for instance, we see quite a bit of that from the entrepreneurs that we support. We have organizations, for instance, that are revolutionizing agriculture just through climate smart irrigation. So smallholder irrigation kits available to everybody, and that helps fight climate change as well as revolutionize agriculture. We have innovations around renewable energy that provide off-grid solutions, which then provide impact around health. We have innovations around waste management that generally reduce waste, as well as provide ways of collecting that waste in an efficient way, and creating good products out of what otherwise would have been waste. And then we have new business models that just ensure that we have a circularity, or what we call a circular economy, where there is no waste in the system, so that every output of one system becomes an input in the other. And so basically innovation, technology, business models, systems are key in the fight against climate change.
And it's interesting that you've mentioned, innovations that are happening on a perhaps smaller scale. I mean, SMEs are obviously, a very important facet of climate entrepreneurship, and you work a lot with SMEs. Why SMEs? If you look at the numbers, you will see two things. One, that over 85% of all businesses in Kenya are actually SMEs. Close to 90% of employment in Kenya comes out of SMEs, as it is. And therefore, it becomes important to support that important segment of the economy, so that then we can be able to power economic growth. But more fundamentally, at KCIC, we have three foundational beliefs. We believe that climate change is a challenge. Secondly, that we can fight that challenge at the intersection of innovation and entrepreneurship. And then third, that our frontline soldier is SMEs. So all our solutions go through SMEs because of the important role they play in the economy of the country. So let's talk about, looking ahead. And, we've already established the effects of climate change, that we're feeling that even on an individual basis. And I was reading somewhere, especially, after the UN General Assembly and what is sort of Climate Week in New York, that many are concerned about, the Paris Agreement, about, lowering, the global temperatures, and that we're a little bit far off from that. So it would seem, in as much as we make progress, we've also perhaps fallen back a little bit. With that in mind, what do you think are some of the most urgent steps that can be taken by all of us? It could be individuals, corporate citizens, government and private sector.
Very, very important question. Just perhaps before I answer that question, to just take you back, the world started recording meteorological data in terms of temperature increase many years ago, probably a century ago. And if you look at that data, 2023, especially the month of June, was considered the hottest month ever since the recording began. And this year, there's a possibility that it will be the hottest year ever. So what basically that means, that in terms of us meeting the Paris Agreement target of 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels, we are way back. And that means, therefore, that's a call in itself to urgent action in terms of addressing this monster of climate change. So I would say, in terms of urgent action, there are three levels. There is the policy level, or what governments or authorities can do. There is the individual level as a person. There is the business level as it is, and there's probably just the leadership level. So at the policy level, the work is to ensure that we create the right policies that can be able to foster innovation, that then we can use that innovation to fight climate change. So that's at the policy level. At the corporate level, the what is urgent is to green our supply chains. That is what is urgent at corporate level. So make sure that all your business processes are green. The energy you use is renewable energy. Your systems are energy efficient. At individual level, now we are talking responsibility. Basically just ensuring that all your actions promote sustainability.
And what would that look like?
Yeah.
Just for individuals who are watching and saying, what can I do?
Yes. For instance, if you are in the office and you've been writing on a paper and that paper becomes waste paper, please put it in a waste bin where it can be collected and recycled. Don't just throw it anywhere. If you go for lunch, for instance, pick food that you can finish. Because leaving food on the table, one, it creates waste. And that waste in itself leads to several actions that could lead to the fight, to climate change. But more importantly, it denies an opportunity to somebody else to get food. So at individual level, you can make quite a lot of choices. If you go to the supermarket, for instance, to buy your bulb, make sure it's an energy-saving bulb. It's a climate-smart bulb, so to speak. So don't use a bulb that is not that comes out of fossil fuel, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you go to fuel your car, try and use low fossil fuel petrol, even where it's not available, even if you don't have an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So unleaded petrol, for instance, could be something that you do. So there are several choices. What is important is at every action to ask yourself, what I am about to do. Before you do it, ask yourself, is what I'm about to do good for the environment and therefore good for climate or not? So that's what you do at individual level. And then at leadership level, remember we live in a society where that is experiential. People watch what you do. So basically just live in a sustainable way and everybody else will follow.
And I think that applies across the board, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Leaders in, elected leaders, leaders in corporate, leaders in households and communities.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So live your life in a sustainable way. Live your life in a way that promotes the fight against climate change.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And, just what you say, we have choices.
Yeah.
And we can exercise those choices at whatever level we are in society.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. And also for outlining the work that you do at KCIC in terms of driving innovation and entrepreneurship towards efforts that are fighting the effects of climate change. Yeah. Joseph Murabula joining us on Power Talk is the CEO of the Kenya Climate Innovation Center, that's KCIC, talking about what needs to be done right now and that everybody has a role to play, including you and I. That's all we have for Power Talk this week. Thanks for watching.